So, let me just make sure I got this thing figured out. Big green button, I think. Oh, good. Back. Excellent. Communitech. Just a show of hands for any of you who have heard of Communitech in the past. A few, okay. Very few. So Communitech is about 20 years old, and 20 years actually just this past spring, and has been around and helping tech companies start, grow, and succeed for those 20 years. And over that time, developed a very large and vibrant ecosystem. So we've worked with a lot of startups, mentoring, coaching, and helping build their business, helping them find money to grow their business, helping them find people as they grew their business. And about 5 years ago, Canadian Tire came knocking on our door. There was no plan here, but Canadian Tire came along and said, hey, you know, we think we could benefit by hanging around your ecosystem and rubbing shoulders with the startups. And so in a few moments, we're going to meet some of the startups that are relevant, or businesses that are relevant to your industry. But I just wanted to take a brief moment and explain why organizations across all sectors are looking at startup engagement in a, I'll say, more frantic manner than they ever have before. So I love this slide. This slide is from it's probably about 3 years old. It was called Inside the Vortex. And basically it was a study that focused on disruption across all kinds of industries. And one of the things that they asked of the various respondents in this survey was, what advantages does each type of company have in its ability to capitalize on digital disruption? And you can see you have the startup on the left and the incumbent on the right. And what I love about this is you can see with the established or the incumbent that, you know, they've got money, they've got brand, they've got customers, they've got channels, but there are things on the left they don't necessarily have that much of as a larger organization. Innovation, agility, experimentation, and risk. And so the ultimate chance here is for the two to come together and to actually find ways they can work together for the benefit of both. There was another study done recently by Deloitte, and Deloitte was just looking across Canada, across every industry in Canada, and basically asking CEOs, you know, do you feel that your industry is facing change, significant change? And almost unanimously in every industry the answer was yes. And it was due to this notion of digital disruption. And yet, of those companies, 4 out of 5 Canadian industries did not think they were prepared for change. So they know it's coming, they know it's present in their industry, but for various reasons, they don't feel they're prepared for what change is coming. So we have seen over and over and over a number of companies from across a variety of industries, including the construction industry, come to us and say, we'd like to engage with the ecosystem. We'd like to engage with startups. And this is why, nicely summarized in this slide here. Sorry, that was a mistake on my part. So in the background of this slide, you'll see a hippo on roller skates, juggling. When we work with companies that are large and established, we like to call them nimble hippos. So they're large, like a hippo, but they've figured out how to roller skate and juggle at the same time. And these are a few tips in which we have seen nimble hippos work with startups. So nimble hippos understand that they're early to the party. When they're engaging with the startup community, they understand that it's early days, maybe with the technology that they're working on, and so they have that context built in. So the gentleman before me who was speaking about GIS, you know, sometimes when people move into a new area, they have much, I'll say, unreasonable expectations of what's possible in early days. But nimble hippos realize that it's important important to be engaged early on and understand the context in which they should engage. They also understand that you need to have a plan when you work with startups. Are you doing this to be a customer? Or are you looking for a technology partnership of some sort? Or are you looking for an opportunity to invest or acquire? So it's important to understand how you want to engage with the emerging company. Number one thing to realize is that startups are interested in revenue, they're interested in customers, and they're not interested in that happening 6, 9, 12 months from now. They're interested in that happen, next week. So it's important that you understand that you can lose the attention of said company if you're not prepared to be able to move in a fairly fast fashion, and hence this notion of nimble. We have found over and over again that startup businesses, early stage businesses, love feedback from organizations, established incumbent organizations that they're working with, whether it's around market, whether it's around business model, whatever it might be. So that is something of value that you can bring when you're coming early to the party, is insight based on all your customers and all the channels that you're currently working. And then finally, what often happens is that, let's say there is an opportunity to work together, there's a potential for engagement. What often happens is the large established company puts down the contract that finance and legal and IT like, which is really meant for SAP or Microsoft or IBM, and not necessarily the startup. And that in itself is a way that causes the agreement maybe not to go forward, or things to not work out. So you have to be able to be prepared, be nimble again, in finding a way to work with early stage companies. So I'm going to stop there and actually let's hear from some of our early stage companies. So I understood that we had the slides in a certain order, and they may not match up with the fine gentleman on the panel today. So if we could have the first slide, that'll let us know who's up next. I think it's Bloom.
Yep, that's me.
Okay, so by the way, I'll give each of you the opportunity to introduce yourself, and then we will just go through. You're going to hear from each of these businesses, and they're going to tell you a bit about themselves and some of the success that they've had, and then we'll have a few questions, and maybe if time permits, we'll open it up to questions from the floor. Okay. Give that to you.
All right, thank you. Hopefully you can hear me. So my name is Dan Arnold. I'm one of the two founders of Bloom Technologies. It's my first Kanban event, and I have to say I'm impressed with the number of the people and the quality of people at your event. So really enjoyed the day here. So hope to participate again in the future. I've been developing computer graphics software since the late 80s down the road at Aerys. So we've been working in the 3D graphics field for all that time. Bloom Technologies was founded in October 2014, so we're coming up on 3 years. So we're a software company. We develop Windows-based applications, C++ code, and we also have a cloud-based application. Any modern piece of software has a cloud component to it today. We started generating revenue about 9 months ago. All of our customers are in the United States. We've been able to penetrate some of the bigger construction companies in the United States and some engineering firms as well. So we're in at Hensel Phelps, Bassfield Gorey, Walbridge, Langdon. On the petrochemical side, some engineering companies, Burns McDonald. We're pretty instrumental in the way we develop the software. Maybe do a little bit more on Burns McDonald. Westlake Chemical. We're actually inside the firewall at Bath Iron Boat Works. Last week they were digitizing some sonar domes from a nuclear submarine, but everything's inside the firewall. You never get to see any of that. Particular challenges here in the Canadian market. I think it's a great place to start and run a company. All the infrastructure you need is really here. The access to educated workflows, the banking structure, the internet. All the things that allow you to start a business are definitely here. But those things are in a lot of places. So it also comes down to other outside influences on running a company that maybe we'll talk more about in the panel, but that's a bit about who we are and what we do, so I'll pass it on.
Okay.
These slides in order, or are you going through
Oh, these are all my slides.
Do you want to talk to them just for a second?
I was going to let somebody else speak, but I'd be happy to talk about my software.
Okay.
One of the things that's unique about what we do is we do work with as-built data. We started, our focus was how you can collaborate with as-built data on the web. We've actually been doing this for quite a few years, and no one else was doing it. We got involved in this kind of project down at Burns McDonald, and they basically were interested in how do we edit the point cloud? How do we use the point cloud as an asset rather than fitting some geometry to it and throwing away our point cloud data? So maybe we'll go to another slide. So we've developed some pretty unique tools for working with point cloud data as a design tool. So we don't throw away the point cloud, we use it just like a block in AutoCAD. We'll take part of the point cloud, like that Klaus boiler, separate it from the point cloud, pick it like you're picking a CAD object, cut it out, do transformation, moving in objects, and then document that process and link it all up with things like Revit or PDS or SmartPlant. AutoCAD in this case is an MEP model. So in this case here, it's a central plant. We remove the laser scan data of the chiller and we replace it with a carrier chiller, and we use the point cloud directly as a drawing primitive. We don't throw it away. We use it directly.
Fantastic.
I want to get up.
Is it working?
Do you like the lottery nature of this?
I'm going to get up there.
Can you hand the slides to us?
Yeah.
You let's get right up there.
Yulio. So we got Yulio. Feel free to come up here if you like.
I'll do that, yeah.
I have to load the PowerPoint separately, so there'll be a small delay.
That's fine. We can sing and dance while you're doing. Go ahead. It's ready for you.
I have my soft shoe all ready to go. Hi, everyone. My name's Ian Hall. I am co-founder and chief product officer for Yulio. Yulio is a turnkey VR platform for architecture and design. So our mission is to allow you to take any design, turn it into an immersive VR experience, and instantly share it with your clients anywhere in the world. I'm going to remember to advance slides here. By all means, try it for free. But to really understand the power of virtual reality, I actually want to take you into an example. So what was your term? Nimble
Hippo.
I believe we actually have Diamond Schmidt in the audience. I'm not sure if Nimble Hippo is going to be a name you want to stick with, but there it is. So you can watch a little bit of what's happening here. So I'm going to go through this case study and show you how virtual reality fit into the real-world business practice. So Diamond Schmidt was working on a large project. This is with the Canadian Museums for Science and Innovation. And the project consists of creating a new center that was combining the collections from 3 major museums into one location. It is a massive project. There's lots of moving parts. One of the challenges, when I say massive, is literal. In these spaces, massive, massive enclosed spaces, because the collection consists of items as small as like ancient hand tools and as large as locomotive engines. The client, with all best intention, is looking at floor plans or looking at renderings and fly-throughs, but it's very tough to understand something this big on a human scale. So there's a lot of innovative folks over at Diamond Schmidt, and they said they were actually using VR a little bit inside their 4 walls as a peer-to-peer tool. They said, let's go and take this complex design and turn it into an immersive, interactive VR experience. They then shared that with the client, and there was an aha moment. They came back to their architect and said, we understand this now. We weren't faking it before we got it, but you had to be very patient with us to kind of understand this. This was a bit of a breakthrough. We now understand what it is that the nuance of your design. They also started requesting specific virtual reality views of this project because their own constituents were wondering what it was going to be like to move into this new space. So you can imagine if you're going to be working in this new collections area and you're not sure if the environment that they're building for you is going to be of the right scope. Again, the scale these guys work on is massive. So Diamond Schmidt could go and add into this virtual reality experience another perspective, what it would be like to work in that particular environment. And it answered the question in real time. So they've gone beyond now just sharing this information with the client. This is now part of their core BIM data. So this is following the life cycle of the project. As the project is updated, the virtual reality is updated, and they contact the customer and say, grab your little inexpensive VR headset, and for those of you who haven't seen me, literally $3 worth of plastic and your phone, and you're able to immerse somebody into the heart and soul of this design in a completely unambiguous fashion. And it materially moved the needle, because at the end of the day, that's really Yulio's mission. It is to give technology out to the creative community and allow them to tell these stories more efficiently. In terms of that BIM life cycle, you can imagine that it is something that's going to survive the project. So what can this institution do with these assets after the fact? Put them into a kiosk, put them up on a website. There's an entire life cycle that happens after this. So back to our balancing hippo analogy. So we're a small startup. We're self-funded, and Diamond Schmidt comes along, and they literally contacted us out of the blue and said, hey, we're working on this new project, and we saw this for the first time. And we're like, holy cow, this is an incredible use of the technology. No one had taken it to this level at the time Diamond Schmidt was doing this project. So they had an ask for us. There was a technology ask. We turned it around literally in a couple of days. Back to your point, we are very agile. It was a really good business insight, and we actually accelerated on our roadmap, and we met them with some technology. They immediately were able to use that with their client. Client was thrilled. We were thrilled. Diamond Schmidt looked like heroes in all of this, which was always great. And at the end of the day, it was kind of a three-way partnership. And we're a tiny company compared to a large organization like that. But it was mutually beneficial, and it was a very respectful type of engagement. This was, hey, we understand where you are from a technology perspective. We've got this opportunity, and it was a collaboration. That's, from an innovation perspective, that's what we're looking for.
Great. Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll find out.
You don't know yet.
We'll find out who's next. Bespoke. Bespoke is next.
Good afternoon. I am Michael Ho. I am the founder and CEO of Bespoke Metrics. I'll give you a bit of background on myself before I jump into exactly what we do. It'll lead into that, the discovery process of being a startup. I've had one career my entire life. I spent 16 years at the very exciting world of finance. I was the COO of DBRS, which is the rating agency for bonds. You may have heard of that through the global financial crisis and the subprime mortgage issue. I was not part of that. So we were all definitely on the corporate side of that business. After all of that, I decided I did not want to do finance anymore, and I wanted to do something in the technology space. As COO of DBRS, I had control of the IT department, data development, and we were running about 45,000 lines of securities every day. 8 years ago, I had a strategy to monetize data. When I had left DBRS, we ended up about close to 22% of revenue from actual data sales. And a lot of people just don't know that the finance industry was going that direction. Fast forward to now, we are 10 months old. We have over 20 staff. We have a partnership in place with Ellis Dodd and Parmelo. We are talking to 4 other Canadian GCs, and we're scheduled to talk to 32 GCs in the US over the next 4 weeks. We have launched our product, and we have registered close to 800 subcontractors in the Canadian marketplace. So the speed of pace in terms of the introduction, in terms of fast, we can't move fast enough. We can't hire fast enough, and we're jammed in 1,400 square feet of office space. So we gotta sit on top of each other, and I'm telling people don't eat lunch in the office anymore. With that, what are we? So essentially, we are a data management company very focused at risk analytics. So the 3 main parts of Bespoke Metrics are data management, which I think a lot of companies can do. So there's a lot of companies here that do the data management piece. Everyone's cloud. I'm not going to tell you anything more about that. I was surprised to see how many acronyms there are at a BIM conference. I thought finance had really cornered the market on acronyms, but you guys, I think, win, because I don't understand half the things that I'm hearing. The analytical model development piece is our expertise. So essentially, we looked at things of probability default. We always modeled things out. I love data. I also think models suck. So I think every model will break. So my plan is to break our models before the actual market breaks them. So we'll continue to stand behind our models, but also tear them apart. So we'll be tacking on a machine reading piece, an AI piece, to look at stress testing across anything we can think of. Whether we can rock our models until destruction is really the plan. And then in terms of process integration, UX is extremely important, particularly in the financial industry, and then crossing over to construction. I hate user guides. If our devs dev something and they need a help desk or there's a question mark, I throw it in the garbage. So if you don't know how to use your phone when you take it out of a box, you are probably throwing that piece of phone or whatever you want to call it, I'm trying to be polite, in the garbage. So our stuff is designed exactly in that same manner. If we can get someone that's non-industry to go through our software and they can't use it without a user guide, we throw it in the garbage. So exactly what have we built? We've essentially built a system that collects data from multiple sources. So we've collected data from Ellis-Don, for instance. We have third-party data feeds from lean providers, and we're looking and we have launched now a direct data portal to subcontractors. The idea is that we are looking and managing subcontractor risks for the general contractor. We actually think we can move downstream to supply chain and upstream to the client. We also think, my prediction is that the market is in a very precarious state. When we started to learn about the margins within this industry at the GC and subcontractor level, I was absolutely floored. I couldn't believe that large projects were taking single-digit margins. And you look at change management and you look at all the problems that are happening on the construction side, something's wrong. And if you look at the complexity of projects that are happening in the marketplace, the architect is getting nicer, but more complex, more difficult. Subs and GCs themselves are JVing more frequently. To me, this is a recipe for disaster. And you're also in an industry with high technology change and regulation, which are all the things that we've seen in every other industry had catastrophic defaults, front page news default. So I think that we're in that increasing amount of risk in the sector. Our company would probably be a benefactor of a default because people are not managing risk appropriately and risk is not being priced accurately, which means that you are fighting each other over, I would call it, very thin margins in a very, very complex industry. It's stupid. Let's change that. We're going to try to do that. So our models are going to start looking at the risk component and helping to manage that risk, and then eventually look at pricing risk. So are you pricing risk accurately? And is that a dialogue we start to have with the clients and the asset owners, the procurement agents? I always pound on their doors already. They tell me they don't want to hear about it. We'll just continue to do that. Our models will demonstrate through data that this is the price of risk. And then again, through the interface. So essentially what we have done, and this is my last slide, is we've taken about 1.8 million variables and produced a model that essentially rips through a subcontractor utilizing business, financial, and health and safety data to produce a relative risk curve of execution ability. We have trademarked in North America our Q scale, and then we give you a trade rank. So identified on that left-hand corner there, Q2.6, rank 22 of 89. We then reveal certain financial elements, some business elements, and that's used as a standardization tool for the GC to utilize, not quite for bid process yet, but for pre-qualification of insurance. So our company starts to evolve very quickly in terms of fintech and insurtech disruption, meaning that the surety providers that are providing surety, the SDI providers that are requesting a pre-qualification, we do that all at once. Could we eventually then evolve and produce automated surety? We're pretty close to doing that internally already. We're not ready to launch that yet. We're 10 months old, so we're not quite sure we want to take on large insurance companies yet. But more than likely, we'll produce that and see where that goes. We've done no funding. We've done everything through sales. So we're pretty much the true startup. We make jokes that are very similar to Silicon Valley, except the racist ones. But other than that, it's pretty much anything you think a startup is what we are. A lot of Coke Zero and a lot of Red Bull, and a lot of different languages being spoken at the dev table. And I'll answer questions at the end. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jeff Lyons, a partner at AEC Solutions, and we've been in business for 18 months. Started development about 4 years ago, and last summer we put about $250 million in progress payment certificates through our system, mostly on City of Toronto and Region of Waterloo, City of Waterloo projects. So our focus is really owner and municipal civil engineering based. So I like the session from Evan that talked about GIS and BIM. I think that this product actually demonstrates the true value of a GIS guy like me, Civil 3D, AutoCAD for 20 years. And we saw that BIM had a huge value beyond design and civil engineering. This graphic here shows the RapidLink job, all modeled in Civil 3D and Navisworks, InfoWorks. Everything that's built is on a list somewhere. AEC Tender and AEC Inspect, the two products that we built, manage those items. So we specialize in owner-based bid tabs or schedule unit prices. So everything that's built in the field is paid for. It's inspected. It's reported by the engineer as being built and inspected, and then eventually it has to be paid for to the contractor. So we actually represent, say, the City of Toronto, an engineer on behalf of Mattamy Homes, anything that's civil engineering infrastructure related. Even the test pit data, that's my latest specialty, is monitoring test pits in the field. Our platform will handle any kind of data from test pits to sewers to trees to insurance and bonding, anything that's in the actual contract. Next. So this is what we built. I like the startup energy up here. This sat on my bedside table for 15 years, by the way. And I was in the design group for most of my career. CAD manager, resource manager. I got tired of guys in contract admin putting a scale on drawings and measuring to see if the pipes are right. Meanwhile, it's a 3D model sitting in a Navisworks file. So that was very tiring, so I quit 4 years ago when we built this system with my partner, who's the data head. We grew from 2 people in January, we're up to 7 people now. So we are, again, self-funding on sales only. We feel we're in a niche market. We feel we have no competition because we're not going for the construction management, more or less we're going for the owner management here. Not sure if architects even do progress payment reporting. Don't know. But until we sell every civil engineer, you can let me know otherwise. This is what our product looks like. So it does literally look like a GIS. I don't know if I can play that. Oh, no. Can we play that video? Huh?
There you go. There you go.
Yeah, so because this was a BIM conference, I thought we should show something design related. This is our interface. It looks like a desktop app because I'm old and I like desktop apps, but my partner's young and likes web. So this is all built on Microsoft Azure Cloud. We're literally creating a custom template, a tender, an empty tender, online. So this is the Excel and the cloud kind of thing. In other words, everybody uses Excel for this right now. Old or young, you can build a schedule unit prices instantly with our system. You can open up Civil 3D or AutoCAD and drag in and attach directly to the cloud the schedule unit prices. In other words, why would I create spreadsheets for quantities when I can dip in and export it directly to the tender for quantities and cost estimating? So our cost estimating system is like a GIS. In other words, item code and description, which the whole industry depends on. We've attached properties like diameter, materials. We can even cost estimate based on products built in November in Toronto that's built by even a contractor. So we depend heavily on the query system. You don't have to do that, but ours does it. So people ask me, does it hook up to Revit? Maybe someday in the future. Not there yet. I'm not an architect. We still produce spreadsheets because the bidders are, regular people and they want to enter their prices. So every time they enter a price into one of our spreadsheets and put it through the bid, we're skimming those costs. We're gathering price data every contract, every month, every year. So your prices of a 5-meter deep manhole are going to, built in November in Calgary, are going to be very similar to the other ones that are built in the past. So it's a very nice system. So that's the core product. Of course, the data moves through the system, goes into progress inspection, progress payment certificates, inspections, all of that thing. Can't show it in the 5 minutes here. The next bit was we built our own mobile app. If you want to play that video, I'm not sure if you can click that. Thank you. So I'd like to say we're the only mobile cell phone in the app in the world that actually, if I walked outside to a parking lot right now and took a picture of a catch basin and walked back inside the office, it would import into AutoCAD. So we're very geocentric. We understand coordinate systems. Of course, lat long on a cell phone is not very good, so we have a survey merge feature that merges it with survey data in an intuitive way. Like I said, 20 years in the business, this works for me personally, and our customers really love it. So we can connect directly to an AutoCAD, pull in any data you want. In other words, in this case, it's a test pit. In other cases, it could be a borehole, it could be a RFI, it could be literally anything, and it'll create a block in AutoCAD. And if you've got good data, you can attach it to a 3D Navisworks file. So this is a little demo of that. So because of my close association with Civil 3D, everything that you're seeing here in plan view can be projected to profile view. So it's, like I said, I think we're the only app in the planet that talks to Civil 3D in this unique way. So this is a typical import here. I think the video is a little slow. We'll show you some Navisworks just to make sure you guys don't think I'm totally uncool without 3D. So here's a nice 3D model that came directly from Microsoft Azure Cloud. And you can just append that to your utility model, and there you go, there's the data. So that's happening all from your cell phone. We're very agile and innovative. Like I said, we work with people, our customers now. We're no longer thinking of things to do. They are telling us what they want, and that's a great space to be as a startup. So I think that's it. So if you want to know more about our contract administration system for civil engineering, talk to me after the session or during the panel. Thank you.
The good thing about being last is you're up.
Oh yeah, I know I'm up. I know I'm up. Okay. I'm well organized too. Hello everyone, my name is Jordan. I work for Aerys North America, and I'm about to give you the future right here, right now. What you thought was possible maybe in 2020, what you thought you were going to apply in 5 years, I've been applied right here, right now for the last 2 years with my company. I just have 2 slides. It's very simple. We have one product, SmartShape. SmartShape is a collaboration platform. Basically, it's going to cut the execution cost by 45% on any complex task, right here, right now, on any project that you may have. The way we do this is that we bring together any 3D model with any relevant data. We allow people that imagine, create, and design things to actually communicate with the people that build them on the field actively. We're able to do that through our platform, which works everywhere on any device, we can deliver any size model on any device. I can easily display 6 gig worth of 3D file with a tera of data behind on a mobile phone in a few seconds, anywhere. Even though we are a cloud platform, we also have offline capacity, because we understand that when you're on the field, you don't always have internet. Because of that, we have people that can work on the field, interact with the 3D model they have in front of them, all of the data that come with it, move forward. So, yeah. So the biggest advantage you find when you work with a tool like that is the fact that suddenly people that used to be blind can now see everything. We currently have the solution deployed in Europe, actively used, and here I have a use case for North America. We've worked with Carlton. The main idea is that we have a stakeholder client, which is always the case in a big project, that's going to hold the requirement, the budget, the procurement, and the oversight. And then you're going to have different people that are going to work on the project. Not everybody is going to have the same management system. Not everybody is going to have the same version of the software. How do you make all those people communicate and talk together? Basically, our platform will sit on top of everything, connect to everything, meaning that your engineers don't have to be retrained. They don't have to change anything about the way they work. We're not asking you to change the way you move your data either. What we do is we connect to all of your data points. Everything that you generate, we can connect to through an API. We connect then the data to the 3D model, allowing the 3D model to be streamed anywhere. You can now speak clearly about what you want, what you need. You can track and have a visual aspect about the third floor of each building, know what has been built, when it was built, who built it, and if it was verified or not. Because it can be attached to your inventory system, you will know if a part is complex to bring, if you have it on site, or if it's going to cause you any delays. This is the main concept behind SmartShape. Now, on top of that, we are a light solution. We are completely agnostic to format. We are a multi-CAD solution. I don't really care whether you're using Navisworks or Autodesk or SmartPlant to build whatever you're building. I can connect to every single model, every single format that exists, including the IFC BIM format. We fully understand the metadata and are able to attach even the outside data to the model. Something that is not shown here, but I'm going to demonstrate with my tablet really simply. I'm going to, hopefully it works, because as you know, demos, when you want to show something, it never works. So right now, I have a $200 tablet that you can buy a bit anywhere, and I'm about to load a 2 gig file of a ship block that is actually being built in France right now. Actually, it's almost done loading. Now, with that, I could have 200 people looking at the same model. They can either follow my own camera or look at different cameras, look at all the data points that are on there, and suddenly you can communicate about what you're building. You can see it. There is no trick to it. It just happened. It's in your hand. Everybody talks about the data and how they can leverage the data and how they can help make money out of the data. Well, CAD is there. Why don't you connect the data to the CAD? Because nobody can compress the CAD model like us. We're able to display 2,000 kilometers of sewer in 4K on a tablet like that in a minute and a half with teras of data behind. That's the power of change. That's the future right here, right now, for the construction industry with BIM.
Okay, fantastic. One thing I appreciated about all 5 of you, I think if I understood correctly, you're all in revenue, you're all selling, and so congratulations to all of you, because for those of you who have not been part of a startup before, the early customers, that's tough work. So good on all of you for getting out of the blocks. It sounds like in a pretty quick fashion. I do have a few questions, but I also wanted to give time for questions from the floor as well. So I see one eager gentleman right here, ready to go.
Make sure this is on this time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you, everyone. Likewise, I'm Alan Partridge, Principal in Next Architecture. We too are a startup, but also have lots of experience that's guiding us. One of the things that kind of struck me, and it's sort of come to a focus with this panel, is the reality is 80% of all buildings fall between $2 million and $9 million. And of the remaining 20%, it slides down pretty fast. So a $200 million building falls into about a 2% percentile. And I'm just wondering, I haven't seen anything yet that is, and think about innovation, that is talking to scalability of this technology. I often hear with these systems that, oh, it'll only work on $200 million project, we're not going to use it, or don't use Revit on this. So I'm just curious to get it from you. Now that you've been in this and you're working on bigger projects, how is it going to be scalable to 80% of reality?
Panelists, anybody want to address the scalability question? Yeah.
So for Smart Shape, I can speak how that works. The challenge was to basically deliver the model, but when it comes to construction, a big part of it is actually maintenance, what comes after once it's built. So for us, the solution to something like that was basically to say there is as much value, if not more value, to be able to have a 3D avatar with the data of the building once it's after. A lot of people, they're going to think at the cost construction beforehand, and they're not necessarily going to look at the maintenance cost and the infrastructure that comes behind. Our solution is viable because even if you don't use it during the construction phase, you can easily plug it after for all the maintenance you're going to do throughout the years, and you're going to have an avatar that's going to evolve with whatever kind of work and construction. So you get gains on smaller projects, on the longevity of the project themselves, from their point of conception to wherever they're destroyed, which could be in 75 years. So this is how we can tackle smaller projects, because basically we're not stuck with saying the project only brings value upfront on big money spending. It brings value through the entire life cycle of the construction of whatever it is that you're making. And because of that, we can tackle even homeowners with, a crew of 6-7 people, maybe one architecture firm, and they can still use the same tool, the price match, their needs, and suddenly you have a homeowner that actually has access to a model that represents what they have. And you're talking right now about a house that would be, $500,000 in construction. So small project. When you look at all of it, and you can apply that to an entire neighborhood, and then you look at the city that could connect with that data to their sewer system. So suddenly you create a full ecosystem where, even though it's a small project, everything starts to make sense, and you can see how the maintenance of the city can finally connect to your house, and they know exactly where the pipe is, and they just walk there with a tablet. So it brings value not just for big infrastructure, but to connect to all the small nodes, which is a big part of it. And that's one of the important section of BIM, is to be able to have traceability in the future of what has been done in the past. The entire idea of having a data model that you can read in 10 years is the fact that you're able to read it in 10 years. It's not just to toss it in the garbage once the building is done and be like, okay, it's done, bye. It's actually to leverage it. So for me, if you need to be able to bring value once it's done, and the size of the project does not actually really matter because everything is interconnected. I know of very few small projects that would be outside of the range, but even when you think of a farmhouse that's really far from a grid, a product like Smart Shape is actually going to have the entire farm mapped in 3D, and you're going to have all the water level and all the different level of soil that are going to be on there on top of the house. So you get value on the land itself.
Thank you, Jordan. Anyone else want to address the scalability? Okay. Another question from the floor?
Come on, you want it.
I have a couple of questions. So, Dan, I'll start with you. I was reading between the lines, so you tell me if I read wrong, okay? But I thought what I was reading was that you have been more successful selling in the US than you have in Canada. Have you seen more success there, or did I read that wrong?
No, I don't know if it's coincidental or not, but there's a couple things you need in you start a company. You know, your basic idea, your intellectual property. You need a market. The U.S. is a large market, obviously. The contacts we were able to first make are in the U.S. So I think, you know, generally the opportunities there are large. It's not that we don't want to sell to Canadian companies. We're happy to sell anyone here today, but we've had our initial success in the U.S.
Okay. And rest of the panel, did you start out in your own backyard? Did you start out farther afield? Where did you find early success, early uptake, adoption? Ian?
So we're coming at this as serial entrepreneurs. So we have other businesses, and we've got, you know, connections and successes. And one of the best ways of doing a startup is to go down paths you've tread before. So one of our earliest customers was Steelcase, a large U.S. organization. But we also have folks like Diamond Schmidt right in our own backyard. So we actually found a mix. Having some local uptake has been phenomenal because we drive down the road. Mm-hmm. We're in person. In our early days, we actually would go out with our early adopters to their clients, and we'd be introduced as if being on their staff, and they would suddenly whip out virtual reality as part of the communication strategy, and we were there in real time to see how the clients reacted. That only works when you can do it locally, mm-hmm. And we did that with a number of key partners very, very early on, and that was instrumental in informing our design decisions. That said, the U.S. is an absolutely massive market. We were a little surprised. We actually got a fair amount of uptake in Europe without any proactive marketing whatsoever. So
Mm-hmm.
there is a worldwide demand for this technology, and through relatively small marketing communications efforts, we actually saw a fair amount of attention coming to us. So I'd say it really has been a mix. Moving forward, we definitely see ongoing growth in Canada, exponential growth in the U.S.
And I might add, I mean, today local doesn't really exist in our space because of everything we do over the internet. We do training
Mm-hmm.
over the internet. We do demonstrations over the internet. So it's
Okay.
there's no such thing as local anymore.
Good. Go ahead.
In my experience, because I've worked in Europe, hence the accent, and in Canada, when it comes to really cutting edge technology, even though it can bring a really good advantage to a company, Canadian companies are more shy to go to the cutting edge. They rather be number two and have more security. They play safer often, I find, in my experience, than companies in the US or even European company. Now, for me, the difference between Europe and the US is the US, they will throw themselves on a lot of things that don't necessarily has value, and Europe is willing to be the first, but they won't go hard on it. They're going to put just a small amount. I'm willing to be first, but I want to lower the risk.
Okay.
So that's how I would define those three markets that I know a bit.
Michael, were you going to add something?
As a startup, again, this is the startup panel, I wake up with fear every morning. So I was very thankful to get opportunities within the Canadian marketplace, and that was primarily the strategy, to get up and kind of pay yourself and to pay your employees. And, you know, to your point, I think we found actually fantastic strategic partners in Elliston, Parmelo, and Aon in the Canadian marketplace in a very short amount of time. So there are definitely innovative companies here willing to take chances. My background is primarily in the U.S. and Western Europe in terms of expansion and growth. So, and part of that was the P3 growth of the deeper, my previous career, where I actually helped draft the TIFIA bond legislation, which is the, I guess, renewed Build America bonds. I'm not sure what Trump's doing with that, but the strategies definitely go to the U.S. We didn't expect to go to the U.S. Until year 3. We just had some very, very good meetings over the last 6 weeks, and the opportunities are flying. So we've increased that, and now we have a U.S. strategy that probably gets started probably Q4.
Okay.
Can I add that?
Sure. Yeah.
As far as our local strategy goes, when we first introduced the Progress Payment Certificate stuff last spring, we got lucky with City of Toronto projects. So That drove all of our innovation, all of our development over the entire summer, and we just stuck to our guns on support, development. It was just the two of us at the time, and we literally sold by word of mouth all last year. And then after the summer was over, you know, the IBIs, the Associated Engineerings, the WSPs, all these bigger outfits took notice. And then since then, it's been just like a constant sort of flow of local business. We were in the UK 3 weeks ago with another typical BIM type exhibition. We showed our stuff off. They knew what a tender was. They knew everything we were selling. There's an opportunity there. The US, we're going there in 3 weeks. And believe it or not, they don't know what a tender is, but they know what a bid form is. And so we've already done online demos, and there's luckily a huge opportunity for us with local governments and state governments in the US. So
Fantastic. We have maybe 5 minutes left, and I had a specific question for Ian, then an open question for the whole panel. Ian, you shared a success story of Diamond Schmidt, your organization with Diamond Schmidt, and I was wondering if you could share with us what do you think it is about. So you've been getting to know them now. What do you think it is about them that is allowing this to work well? Established company working with a startup. What are they doing right that is making this work well for both parties?
I think what we've seen is that idea of, you know, the large established companies not being innovative, that's changed. The ones that are still in business and are thriving, they have innovative sparks in those organizations. And the architect, Andrew Chung, who led this particular effort, is an incredibly innovative guy, and he saw that opportunity there. But he's in an organization that encourages that. And we are seeing that. I can't remember the last time we were on a call with a major architectural firm where at least one person in the call didn't have VR in their job description somewhere. 6 months ago, that wasn't true. So the rate at which you know, an understanding of a transformative technology is staggering. Like, we were expecting to be kind of, you know, educating the market far longer than we're having to. We're actually starting to see pull now. That speaks to that spark of innovation that exists within these established organizations, and that's what we're looking for. Now, obviously, it's not universal. We do speak to a little bit more high-bound organizations, and they're like, "V, what? Like, you know, hey, can you do a lunch and learn, and, you know, tell us what this plastic thing is?" But honestly, they're few and far between. They're also, back to, you raised a point earlier, if you want our attention, you gotta kind of meet us halfway a little bit. We don't call those guys back, and that's okay, because there's lots of people to talk to. And the ones that we give a seat at the table, the ones that help influence our roadmap, are the ones that are kind of meeting us on the innovation basis. And we actively solicit from those partners folks that are bringing those new ideas. I mean, we ultimately control our roadmap, but we open that ability to kind of influence it to the really creative ones. That means they have a seat at the table. The ones that don't meet us halfway, that are like, yeah, $20 a month, it's been, no. You know, like, meet us at that enterprise level, and we'll kind of reciprocate. Okay, great, thank you. So, last question maybe, open for the whole panel. Are any of you willing to share something that didn't work out? So, to your point, what are there relationships that you've tried to go down the path with, and why do you think they failed? What do you think the other side wasn't considering or needs to do better? Okay, so open to the panel.
I got one.
Yeah.
It might hit home with the BIM community here. I used to work for Autodesk for a few years selling Civil 3D. And when we first started the business 4 years ago and released last year, I thought we had the ultimate solution for every Civil 3D user on the planet. Of course, I checked in with all my contacts, went to Autodesk, tried to get the channel involved. They didn't know what we were selling. They didn't know what a tender was. And that's when it really occurred to me that they really are out of touch with the construction process. They're out of touch with the fact that everything that they're modeling has to be built and paid for. And it occurred to me that we had a huge opportunity to not just go to every single Civil 3D customer, but educate the channel on a huge opportunity, because BIM and design has nothing to do with bidding out a job and tendering it and all the other headaches that go with building it. So that's what we brought to the table, to the Autodesk channel, I guess, that never really did pick it up.
Thanks, Jeff. One more?
Yeah, I would build on what Ian said. We tried to pursue customers who, in the end, it didn't pan out. And it's basically, if you're trying to do something new and you approach someone and they don't get it, you can't push a rope. You walk away from and you go to the next one. And there really are a lot of them. And if people can get what it is that you're trying to do that's new, those are the ones you need to pursue.
Okay. We're just past 5, and I'll try to keep on time here. So if you could please join me in thanking these gentlemen for joining us today.